Today, my guest is Katie Krimitsos, the founder of the Women's Meditation Network, a multi-million-dollar podcast with over 200 million downloads. I have known Katie for over 15 years, so I wanted to hang out and unpack what she has learned throughout this journey, how has it evolved, and how is her day-to-day life looking at this point. So let's go get to it and get beyond the followers. I am so excited to be hanging out with a very good friend of mine for over 15 years, the host of the Women's Meditation Network, Miss Katie Krimitsos. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for letting us join.
Yeah, welcome. I'm so happy you're here.
So Women's Meditation Network. So before we even get to Women's Meditation Network, I'm taking us back to Biz Women Rock.
Oh, yeah.
So what was the thought process of when we were starting that podcast, and what did we take away from that to be like, I'm going to do this? Because there was a huge pivot, and it was pretty quick, right? Like you stopped doing that one, and then we're like, no, I'm doing this now.
Yeah. So I'm what you would call the OG podcaster, right? Like I've been podcasting since 2014. And I started Biz Women Rock because I was just obsessed with entrepreneurship, and I wanted to be able to interview women who were building companies and had stuff to share. And so I launched that show, and it was in 2014 still. It was like I had to still teach people what a podcast was and how to go like subscribe to a show and how to do all that stuff. But it grew into a really sticky, loyal, super awesome community of women entrepreneurs that really ended up feeding a business for me of, strategic coaching. I had masterminds that I put on and provided. I did live events, retreats. I had courses. I had community memberships, all that sort of stuff. So, and we averaged about 5,000 downloads a month as we kind of rolled out, and
It was a big deal at that time too.
It was a really big deal, and it was it's worth saying though, business model wise, I also had a Facebook group that I think it was about 10,000 women in there.
We had the Facebook page, right? That's what we used to launch.
Yeah, that's what we used to launch. And I don't even remember. It was a big Facebook page.
Yeah, it was like 20,000.
You're the one who gave me the name. You're the one who gave me the idea for that name, by the way, because I was thinking through like business, business women are cool, or business women something. And you're like, no, name it something where the woman who's your ideal listener would be like, that's me. So I was like, Biz Women Rock, and any businesswoman would be like, yeah, I do. So there you go, Joe. There's your claim to fame. That's the whole
concept of naming pages, naming whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Make it literal that the people are going to see it. That's why Tampa Bay is awesome. When I started it, is like, what are people going to see and be like, yeah. That's why I'm gonna follow this. Yeah. So it makes it easy.
So when I launched Biz Women Rock, I want to say a year later, I had my first daughter, and so in that sort of figured out how to do the mompreneur thing, if you will, or at least was sort of like piecemealing that together, and then got really serious about bringing the business to life, because humbly speaking, I had no clue what the hell I was doing. Like I really,
any of us did. We were just like, let's start it up and get downloads and figure it out.
Right. And so at some point though, by the end of 2017, I had hit my first 6-figure year. I was like, okay, I'm doing this. Like, business model wise, the majority of my revenue came from coaching, which I loved, group coaching, masterminds, all that sort of stuff. And so it tiered down, and I really, really loved doing it. I felt like I was kind of hitting my stride. And then in early 2018, I had this idea. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I've got this whole plan. We're going to triple business. I'm going to launch this program. I'm going to launch an event. I'm going to let the event launch this thing. And it's going to be, I just knew exactly what it was. And by the end of Q1, we were on point. Things were looking really good. And then in April of 2018, we found out we were pregnant with my youngest. And it just literally immediately, I just heard my intuition whisper, like, you're done. You're done. And it was very scary because I'm like, what do you mean I'm done? Like last week I was loving this. What are you talking about? But I have had enough experience with my intuition, knowing what she sounds like and knowing to take her seriously. So it was enough of a nudge for me to to actually pause for a little bit, which was pretty scary, because it was part of our household revenue, and I had a business that was very outward facing. I was going on lives all the time. My face was everywhere, and so for me to sort of like pause was very weird. I was very scared that the brand wouldn't survive it, if you will, or
and there wasn't any like residual stuff really happening yet, because everything really was still dependent on you.
Correct.
Fulfilling.
Right. There was no residual. It was like I have to like recreate that nut every month. Now I take that back. The residual I did have was with like any coaching or mastermind people who were like, let's say, paying monthly, which I liked. I did that a lot.
Yeah. But still dependent on you.
Correct.
Doing the coaching.
Showing up, right? So all I did for about 2 months was I showed up for my current clients. I didn't launch anything new. I had just put down a $500 deposit for the location where I was going to have my live event. I remember that. Like the week before we found out we were pregnant. And so so what happened in this like 6 to 8 weeks was I just kind of went inside and I was like, okay, what am I doing? What is this? If I'm not doing this, what am I doing? And I would go on walks with my husband every single day. And one day, I've just finished sort of like, I don't know, and just trying to figure it out. And he says, well, what about that meditation idea? And what he was referring to was back in January when I was making the big plans, one of my sideline ideas was creating a meditation podcast for women. But I didn't take it very seriously because it didn't really fit in with the plan at the time. But I just had the plan. I had told him about it. So here we were in May, and he's saying, what about that meditation idea? And I'm like, well, what about it? And he's like, what about it?
Okay.
And that was the seed that planted the Women's Meditation Network. Within an hour, we had sort of brainstormed it out, and I knew it was a network. I knew it wasn't just one show. I knew that there was, in 2018, believe it or not, if you searched on your podcast app for meditation and women, one show came up. And I was like, there's a huge space here, and I feel like I have something to contribute to it that I think most women would really want to hear. So without any experience, meditation experience per se, like I was never a meditation teacher. People didn't even know I meditated. I launched my first show, Meditation for Women, that summer. And Meditation for Women, and within 3 months it was already hitting the same amount of downloads that my old show was hitting. So the transition was not quick. It was actually pretty long. It was about 1.5 years of me sort of scaling one business down while I had my baby and sort of like trying my best to sort of like maintain and grow the one podcast that I had. So I did that, but I finally let go of all that, and it kind of came to a head in early 2020, actually right before the COVID shutdowns.
Which people needed the meditation side of it, which is
that was kind of a hockey stick moment for us, yes.
So before even the Biz Women Rock side of things, with what you and Chris had before with the big events and hosting these things where we had speakers all the time. I remember the times that we would hang out at the little office off of Cypress, and it's like, we have all these people telling us what to do. Maybe we should go do it. Yeah. Maybe we should just start doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like did you have any like, not aha moments, but more like seeing somebody that we had that was one of the presenters or someone that was doing something with affiliate stuff where you're like, let's go do this as a podcast? Because you could have done all of the consulting and all of the stuff without the show. I mean, I remember when Mark and all of us were sitting there coming up with the name and like, all right, let's try to go for new and noteworthy. All right, let's go build the Facebook page and build all that out. But like, what was I'm going to do this as a podcast? Obviously, it was in the infancy side of it.
Right.
Chris was not waving. Was he waving the podcast flag yet? I don't remember.
Absolutely. We both discovered it at the exact same time. As a matter of fact, funny story, we both came to our business consultant at the time saying, I want to do a podcast. I want to do a podcast. And our business consultant said, hey, you guys already have a very full business that takes a lot of time. You need to choose one. And I sort of had the more established idea, if you will. He hadn't really like crystallized an idea yet. I didn't know. I at least baby stepped it. So the reason I wanted to do the podcast was just because I loved the topics. I love women and I love entrepreneurship. And I figured, hey, I just learned about this tool that is pretty awesome. I learned about it through the business angle. It was about sharing a message, yes, and I knew it could be a part of a business model. So I got really excited about that. The reason I did it and didn't do anything prior was because, well, I don't think anything had lit me up like that. Like this idea of like, I could use this tool to broadcast to people all over the world. And that, I got that concept right away. And it just seemed new and fun. And the reason I didn't do any of it beforehand in any other way was because I had not yet developed the confidence nor the understanding of who I was in relation to business and what I could offer. So launching the podcast for me in the early stages, I saw potential for business model, but I didn't consider myself a coach. I didn't consider myself anyone that anyone would want to hear business advice from. I was working the business that my husband and I were doing. I didn't think anyone had any interest in who I was or what I could teach. I didn't see myself that way. And so I just figured I want to talk to other women. I want to learn from them. You know, we'd go to all these live events and learn from all these beautiful people. And I was like, I just want more of that for me. And I think other people will be interested. And it took me, hopefully you guys can all laugh at me at this. I was probably a year-ish into it when like a person who was a member of my community, listened all the time. I happened to also know her locally, but she sat down, we went out for coffee. She asked me out for coffee and she literally put a check in my hand and said, I want you to coach me. Can you please coach me? Right. I never saw myself that way. So it was, Biz Women Rock for me was me stepping out of just running a business and actually saying, I actually have something to give people here and to share with people more so than just the guests. I actually have an expertise and I could share that and I can help people with that. So how am I going to do that?
So was that the time frame? Was it about a year before that it started monetizing? Or what was the first thing of monetization that happened? It was
the coaching, definitely.
Okay.
We didn't have the numbers to plug into like a traditional CPM advertising model. I did work with some advertising kind of matchmaker companies, agencies. Like I remember Chase Bank being a sponsor of mine in the early years there, but that might have been after the coaching. But you know, the numbers are sort of one-off. So it was, yes, the coaching was immediately, well, within a year, I know I can make money doing this. That's great. And for me, it was like, there was no barrier. I could literally just say it. It's open. My job was to figure how to productize it. How am I packaging coaching in a way that people really want it? And then, and that it's delivering what they need. It's giving them the transformation that they really are looking for. And that took me time to learn as well. And then it was, okay, great, I'm going to do, group coaching, masterminds. And then what's the next step? I'm going to put on a retreat. And then I'm going to, try a membership. And not all of these things were successful, but they were at least.
It was all in the wheelhouse of the stuff that we'd done in the past. You've been a part of okay, cool. We built the community. Here's how they will typically engage with stuff.
Right.
Not necessarily on the monetization of the show, so to speak. Things were happening as a byproduct of it.
Right.
So then taking all of those things and then all right, I'm going to have, because now how many shows are a part of the Women's Meditation Network? There's 15 shows in there?
Oh no, I have to count.
The kids ones I saw yesterday?
I have 24.
Oh my gosh.
24 podcasts that are all a part of the network. We've just recently launched 3 in the past couple of months.
Wow.
So yeah, it stayed stable at 20 for quite some time. And then we just launched our last 3, meditation for travel, perfect for the holidays, meditation for menopause and perimenopause, incredibly pertinent to the women out there these days in my age group. And meditation for birthdays and celebrations are more recent ones. So
every one of these is its own individual podcast. Do they have any independent social sides of things, or it's your model is we're starting podcast side and then figuring out what else to do with it?
As it lands right now, the brand itself, Women's Meditation Network, which is the mother brand, is the social representation, and I am the social representation for it. So me as a brand and WMN as a brand are sort of the social representations. It became clear quite early that I could not individually brand each of these things. That didn't seem wise to me because I really wanted them to see it as a larger whole. And it's worked out really well in the sense that for 7.5 years since I've been doing this, for 7 of those years, the business itself has been the podcast network. That's been the business. Okay. So how am I monetizing it? How am I bringing in new listeners? How am I putting fuel through that engine and growing that network, right? So it was more shows, more episodes. What marketing are we doing to bring in new listeners? What cross promotions are we doing? We still do all of that. Yeah. However, over the past 6 months, it has been a huge transition and desire. This was part of my goals for earlier this year, that we're now actually implementing and in the middle of, is that the podcast network is just one part of the grander brand called the Women's Meditation Network. So under the brand of the Women's Meditation Network, yes, we have this podcast network, and we continue to grow that and expand that. And we also have digital courses that are teaching women how to use meditation to actually build a life that they really love. And that's the first of our courses that will come out. It's called Meditate to Magic. And so, it's no longer are we addressing just listeners. We're saying, hey, you listeners over here, for those of you who want to do more than just press play on a meditation, here's what we can now offer you: more education, more ways to actually use it to know yourself, to build a life that you actually love. And so that is the first of many courses that will come out that will help kind of with all the individual desires that the listeners are having. So with the listeners, is there been well, before we get to that part of it, so how long was it before when you launched to, okay, money is now going to come in? Yeah. And like how many shows, because it's a black hole of time. Yeah. And there's not like we know we need to produce this many shows to get to X. We're just throwing stuff at the wall and all right. So from the moment the first show launched, Meditation for Women, in summer of 2018, to the moment we launched our second show, which was Sleep Meditation for Women, 1.5 years. Okay. Okay. So that was the longest period of time in our growth, meaning that was the year that I had my baby, right? Like I had my baby in that year. I was still putting Biz Women Rock to bed. I was slowly paring that down and just dealing with like annual coaching clients. That's it. And I was still doing everything I could and having a spend to grow the audience on Meditation for Women. Yeah. So when you're growing the audience, you're focusing energy growing people following and subscribing to the channel. Correct. And the reason, this is a really interesting note from a strategic point of view, because at the moment, I'm a really big advocate of every one of us listening to our guts and really doing what our intuition knows to be right for us in any given season of our lives, which means that when I launched Meditation for Women, and when I saw the whole vision of what the whole network could be, I was pregnant and I had a 2.5-year-old kid, toddler, right? So I did not want my time to be attached to making money, meaning I wanted to be able to make money during nap times and at night times, and I didn't want to have to show up on a call to make money. Yeah. So I knew really clearly that I wanted to build a business that had the potential for financial freedom, like had scale. And I wanted to build a business that had time freedom, where I could do it from anywhere. It sounds so sexy, and it's not. Yeah. There's a lot
We're still doing work. We still have a lot of things to do.
We're doing work, but I knew I wanted something where I could do it at my time and I didn't have to show up. I had been, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so because of that, I absolutely had the capability. Like I said, we were getting $5,000 or 5,000 downloads a month by month 3. So I could have easily said.
Does that number something like, all right, if we got 5,000 downloads, we can start making money? Or it's kind of like, you're going to make $50.
It has to do with how I chose to make money at that point. Okay. So I could have opened up for coaching right away. I could be obviously I was doing business coaching, but I could easily have said back then, I'm going to be a life coach and I can help you through A, B, C, or D. And in some ways that might've been really wise because I could have learned my audience really intimately in that way, but I didn't want that.
No, outside of the...
So I said, my priority is time freedom and financial freedom here. So what's the business strategy that makes the most sense? So the business strategy was, I'm going to make this the number one way for us to make money for the short period of time that I saw ahead was advertising. And if I want to make really good money advertising, I need a traditional model. And if I wanted to do it the traditional way with like CPMs and, the certain ad rates and all that sort of stuff, I knew I needed to have a lot of people listening. I needed more than 5,000 people.
So CPMs, if you don't know what Katie's talking about, is like the number of impressions per thousand. So dollars people will pay you per thousand listens or views or impressions.
So I'll give you this equation, right? So I don't remember what the number was back then, but let's pretend that, for a particular rate might be like $25 CPM.
Wow.
So for every 1,000 downloads, I could get $25. Well, if I'm getting 5,000 downloads a month, that's $125.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me at all, right? So I knew I needed just to scale that. I needed high numbers to be able to make that model make sense for me. But that model felt like it could give me the freedom I wanted, right?
$25 CPM would be awesome.
Well, that does exist in the podcast world. So,
yes.
My point in saying that is, and that's, by the way, that's for like a host read ad.
Yeah.
Look, for some of the more programmatic ads, which are like ads you hear on YouTube, right? Like the automated ads you probably heard at the beginning of this, right? That you're not speaking.
Yeah.
Those are definitely a lot lower. Like we're talking $3 CPM, $6, $10, $12, that kind of thing. But I knew I needed to scale out the numbers in order for any advertising really to make sense. So I put an enormous amount of budget into just more listeners. And so I did every marketing technique, and my husband was really, the leader on this. Like, we're willing to spend money without having made money.
Yeah.
We're willing to spend money to just bring more listeners to the fold, to bring more and more listeners. From pretty early on, my goal wasn't to make money. It was bring more listeners to the fold. Yeah. I know I have something special. And then we can turn on, it's gonna loop, it's gonna flip really quick. I'm gonna spend a lot of money, but there's gonna be a moment when I'm able to say, boom, turn to advertising on, and then the numbers are gonna immediately kick in, and that's what happened. Now, that probably took about 3 years for me to make like my first dollar really, like profit.
Yeah.
And in that time, I don't wanna pretend that things are pretty. Like we took out like a second mortgage, like a cash out mortgage of our home, like refied, and put 80% of that into my business for advertising, like to market the business so more people market that podcast and the podcast we started having more of in order to bring more listeners to the fold. What happened was that there was a moment in time at about 3 years in, and at about 3 years in, we probably had 4 podcasts by that point. We had our original sleep meditation for women, morning meditation for women, and I think a sleep sounds.
And what do you think the average monthly downloads were for those 4 at that time before the switch happened?
Right. My guess is probably 500,000 downloads a month. So it was growing and it was growing fast.
So at 500,000 downloads, we still hadn't started like advertising monetization yet.
I think I had turned it on because that's not true. I did host read ads only first. I was I don't know if this still exists, but like in my day, when I first started, back in my day,
back in 2020.
I know, well, in 2018, it was still really looked down upon to have advertisers. Like, how dare I?
Using a network or to have something like, hey, XYZ is sponsored by blah, 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 blah.
Host ads are a little softer, right? Like people can get behind that. But to have programmatic ads, and I'm a meditation podcast, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you even think to have...
They're not interrupting the podcast. They're not interrupting it. It's obviously you're getting through and you're just like,
of course
as you go into the sleep, this is brought to you by...
This is brought to you by... Yeah. But, and believe me, there was a lot of attention and time spent on engineering the play and how things go of the pre-roll, which is what happens before the meditation begins, of what that experience is like to maximize advertising dollars, but also maximize the user experience, the listener experience. Yeah. So there's been a lot of attention on what the best way to do that is, so that everyone wins, right? My point in saying that is that, yes, it took me a long time to actually bring in host read ads because that's what I felt comfortable doing first. And then after, I think about a year, I was like, let me experiment. This is how I approach everything. Let me experiment with programmatic ads, these automated ads that are sometimes 20 seconds, sometimes a minute. Let me experiment with those and see what my listeners think.
Yeah. Because in contrast to a YouTube ad, like you can't skip these. Like you
can't. Well, I mean, you can manually skip them. Yeah, you can press skip, 5 seconds or 10 seconds.
10 seconds ahead. Yeah.
But I experimented with the difference is with a host-read ad, it's a long-term financial model that is relatively speaking, very unstable. You've got an agency or agencies you're working with who are vetting with you, hey, do you want to do this? And then they go back and they work a deal with the advertiser. They're coming back to you. You have to approve it. They have to send you product. You get to try it. And then by the time the ad plays for X amount of weeks or months or whatever it is, and then you get paid on that. I mean, it's a 6-month process.
So these aren't even companies that like you built a relationship with saying like, I want to pay for you, blah, 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 blah.
Right. I could have done that, but I didn't want to. It was worth paying, 20, 30% to have somebody else to be my salespeople. Yeah,
bring me more people.
So, but that's that model. A programmatic ad is turn the button on, open up the spots for ads to go in, make sure you're excluding things that are inappropriate or not in accordance, not in alignment with your brand, and then it's on. Like that's the only work you do in order to have those ads. So for me, I was like, let me experiment with that because it will give me, A, I don't have to spend time doing it. B, it can fill these advertising spots and give me some relative, what I call ROI, reliability of income, right? Because those pay out every single month on the dime. So if I could predict my numbers, I could predict how much money I was going to bring in.
Nice.
And that eventually became like my bread and butter on how I could plan business. And then I always saw those host-read ads as like the extra, I was planning, I was projecting when I would get XYZ. Some companies were better at paying than others. But that always, I never planned business based on that money.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Have you done anything with any advertising people who didn't pay? Because people ask me that all the time.
Oh yeah. And it is what it is. Yeah. And because I work through these agencies, it hasn't happened a lot, thank God, but there was, easily 20 to 30 grand have been like, oops, sorry, the company never paid us. We can't pay you. And I'm like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well, people, then we'll other influencer people were hanging out talking about doing stuff with restaurants or so, whatever it is. And they're like, oh, do you have contracts? You this? I was like, what are you going to do with this contract?
Yeah. We had contracts for all of them. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, but if you can take them to small claims court because they didn't pay you. And it's different scales of stuff. But like people go into a restaurant, they're like,
right.
You can take them to small claims for $500. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? We're like, you're just frustrating everybody.
Yeah.
And it's where, look, we all just kind of have to play the game to a degree. And, you find out who the reliable spots are. So you're like, all right, I'm not doing stuff with this agency anymore or whatever those relationships could be.
And look, some things like, it's not that they're bad companies either. You got those, but some of these companies legit went out of business and they don't have the money to pay you. So what are you going to do? You know?
So almost 3 years before money really started to come in.
Right.
What do you think the total investment was over that time, building the audience, and where were you investing that? So you said that you were spending money on ads and driving traffic over to it. Where was that ad spend getting? Right. I'm sure it was a lot of places in the beginning, but then where was it okay, we're dumping it here?
We experimented with a lot. So we would have a budget for podcast app advertising. That was sort of ended up being a really great way to do it. Okay. So everyone's listening on their podcast app. And so there's going to be some sort of a banner or pop-up or something, no matter what app they're listening on, that says, hey, check out this meditation or check out this podcast. And so every app has their own way of doing that.
Okay.
So we
kind of recommended for you sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But force
again, right. Some of them you would be on the top of their banner, home banner when you log in. Some of them you're just a line item within somebody playing an episode. So and there's a lot of podcast app, even though, Spotify, Apple, now YouTube is actually the #1 place where people listen to podcasts. So we would experiment with all of these, and with all of them, it didn't even matter how small they were. I would look at where on my analytics, what podcast apps people were listening on, and then I would go just spend X amount of dollars on that. And then the ones that worked, I'd spend more money. So that was a big way, but there was a lot of like random one-off experiments that we would do. I would have an ad spend for podcast apps, podcast ads. So people were paying me to be a host read, to read their host read.
Got it.
I would then spend money in order to have you do a host read ad about my podcast on your podcast, right? So I was doing that as well. And that was okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. And then, I feel like we did a ton of Facebook ads, Instagram ads, like direct to go listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Not like a specific podcast, or like one of the shows.
An episode, one of the podcasts. So one of the, at that time, maybe like 5 or 6 podcasts that we have. It would be one for our sleep meditation podcast has always been our biggest podcast. Okay. And it's really the biggest pain point that so many people have of like insomnia, not being able to sleep. Yeah. And so we did a lot of advertising for the Sleep Meditation for Women podcast, wherever we could, really. Yeah. PR, done a ton of PR, like just awareness, all that sort of stuff.
Was there any like magic bullet? What was like the one that's like, all right, this is where we're going to, 80% now, all right, we 80-20 this enough.
Right.
This is now where the 80% is going to go.
The podcast app ads were really successful for a long time, but even those kind of constantly changed and we had to tweak a lot. And then at some point, those weren't nearly as successful as some of the other things. Yeah. And so, no, there's no magic bullet. Like, I wish.
Of course.
I wish, I wish it were like, hey, this is where we know we're getting results. It's going to be this way all the time. Boom, boom, boom. The numbers add up. Do that all in. But the truth is that you have to just constantly keep an eye on that, see what your ROI is, and then see what your conversion is, and then just literally have your eyeballs on it very, very regularly. So
when you were doing those, were you able to see, obviously probably cost per click, but were you also kind of getting like cost per acquisition? Like were they becoming a subscriber and like modeling into the network?
Different apps showed you different analytics. So, on one app, I might be able to see, I might be making up some of these numbers because I don't remember exactly, but I might be able to see like it cost me $5 to get a subscriber. That means not just somebody who listened, but like somebody who actually subscribed. And that could be very valuable. Another podcast app, it might be $1 per download. Like I pay $1, that's the investment. I can pay $1 and it equates to about 1 download. Mm-hmm. So, I'll take that, but that's a different metric than the $1 per subscriber. So, again, each sort of outlet had their own analytics that they were really delivering.
Would that be a accurate guesstimate around like, all right, cost per acquisition for subscribers would be possibly around $5?
I mean,
I'm sure it's gone up and down and all over the place.
On that app at that time, yes.
Nice.
Was it that way a month later? I don't know. Is it that way across all of podcasting? I would absolutely say no. Like every podcaster is going to have, who's actively doing marketing is going to have some level of different numbers based on their topic, their people, where they're advertising, all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if there is a standard per se.
So are you still running lots of ads, bringing in more?
No.
Or is it kind of more now on the organic side where we're still growing?
Yeah. I, last year, so in 2023 and all of 2024, and then half of 2025, I moved the majority of my advertising dollars into PR because I really, for many, many years, my face was not a part of the brand at all. Because my face was such a big part of the brand prior that I kind of wanted something a little bit more private. But at some point I really recognized, I should probably put my face out there. So,
I feel like I had the same thing where it was like at some point you're like, all right, we convert so much better when like we're in it.
Yeah.
Which is,
and I was going through my own dance with how I wanted that to be and what I was comfortable with and all that sort of stuff. So that was a big reason why I shifted those marketing dollars to PR, because I wanted me to be synonymous with the brand, and I wanted me to be able to go around and do that. So it worked, but PR, doing TV interviews and doing, writing magazine articles and being featured on XYZ, like, it's not always the most easy to track as far as like how that shows up in downloads and growth of audience. But I feel like it definitely expanded my reach for people. And so I can't directly relate it to any of the downloads, if you will. But like, we're in a big shift right now where, our brand is really expanding into courses, into coaching, into merchandise, into affiliates, and all sorts of other ways to service the women who are coming to us. And so our marketing is going to change. I've always, the past couple of years, I've really put a lot of attention onto social, and that's been a slow growth for us. And something I constantly am like, I need to, I should have done this a lot earlier. Yeah. Like, it could have been a lot bigger. I think you were with me when we started our Instagram page, our Instagram profile, and then it got I got hacked and blackmailed, 50,000 followers in, and I was like, so we had to start from scratch from that. But so social is where I've put a lot of time and attention as far as like growing the simultaneous brands, right? And so that's sort of my new wave of stuff until we figure out the kind of marketing that's needed for the new rollout of everything that we're doing. And I'm constantly marketing within the community that we have already. So like all of these new shows, like they get kind of a tour on all of the other podcasts to grab those audience, the members, all those people over there who are like, oh, I didn't know you had a menopause show. That's great. Yeah. And so same thing with, the courses and stuff like that. Like we are constantly making sure that our current community knows about all the things that we're doing, so we can kind of like bring those people over to and hold their hand through the experience that they really need should they want it. And
that's really happening through your own introduction, your own self-read ad kind of things. Correct. Within any existing show that they have, where it's like that's your pre-show experience that you're curating. Yeah, so across our 24 shows, we get about 2 to 3 million downloads every month. And so, and we've had over 200, I want to say we might be close to 210 lifetime downloads in 7.5 years, which is pretty significant. Yeah. And so my job to make sure that all of those folks know about all the stuff that we have coming out, usually about once a week, I try for more. I have some sort of like a hello from Katie, and it's kind of my emails that I'm writing, right? That goes on all of them. Correct, except the kids shows. We have 5 kids shows, and I really keep those pretty pure, because even though that there are parents listening, I still like to be really specific with what I'm putting on there. So across all the adult shows, I'm either just doing some sort of like a give marketing kind of like, here's content about how to manifest, and here's a lesson I learned about what deep presence looks like, and then I'm making a call to action for whatever it is that's related that we have to offer, or I'm directly saying, hey guys, we have a new podcast for you coming out that's called Meditation for Menopause and Perimenopause. Look, I'm approaching 50, and I'm on the precipice of this. It is a huge part of our conversations and friend circles. Like, I know you guys have told me you need this, here it is. And so, or a direct like, hey, Meditate to Magic is opening up next month. Like, make sure you guys get in. So it's me directly talking, and it's not a pre-show. It's like the show. It's the episode. Okay. Because we put out so much. We put out probably 150 episodes a month. Wow. So you're saying an episode, like, I guess describe what is an episode? Is it all a specific meditation? Correct. Or some of them, like that one sounds like it was more of a yes. So this is discussion. Me talking, right? So the norm for almost all of our podcasts is it is a meditation. It's a guided meditation. That's what it is. So the abnormal is me coming on and having a conversation with my listener about A, B, C, D. So I've done that more and more over the past year or so, that it's just this hello from Katie episode. And hey, I have something to share with you that's on my heart right now that I think you might really like to hear. And again, those are like content heavy, meaningful, and then if I have something to offer, I do that at the end. Or, and that might happen once a week, every couple of weeks, what have you. But as we have the other
products or podcasts come online, then it's a matter of, yes, I'm saying it about that. Here's this podcast we have. You got to go listen to it. Here's a sample. If you like it, here's the link to go subscribe or to go follow.
So backtracking, so 2018 to 2020, 2021, not making a lot, investing a ton. If you guesstimated how much you guys put in,
I would say at least 100,000. I mean, at least
100K. We're not making anything really yet.
Yeah.
Then what was the first year of like, we're flipping the switch. Let's make money now.
Yeah.
What was that first?
Oh my God.
First year.
I vaguely remember it probably being about 50 grand for the year.
So.
Not a profit, but of gross income that we had coming in, right? So
from that not being all profit, like what were the expenses? You were still running ads and stuff, but was it all just kind of getting dumped back into ads because you didn't have your staff?
I mean, I've had people as part of my team from almost day one because I had learned from Biz Women Rock that I needed support, and I was at least smart enough to know like I can't do all of it. I mean, I did a lot obviously in those early years, but I almost immediately had a producer who was putting the episodes together. I had an assistant who was just doing little onesie twosie things for me at the time, and I think that's what it was. So it was that. It was I mean, it was a really low cost at that time because and still recording from my closet, but it was like, I would say the heavy expenses were really in the marketing and the advertising. Yeah.
So what was the year where it was like, we're actually going to make money now? How long into it before that happened?
Oh man, I don't remember, to be honest with you, but it wasn't that far after that. Nice. Because like I said, like once we turned on, then it was like whoosh. So I don't remember our exact numbers, but I could tell you numbers from like that kind of go back from here. So I was telling you before we hit record that we're in 2025. 2023 ended at just shy of $1 million, at $1 million in gross revenues. And 2024 was at about, and that was the highest that we had got. So it might have been like 750 before that, and then maybe like an 850, what have you. And then it was like the 998 or something.
So context-wise, like that's relatively rapid from like, all right, we went from 2018, 2020, like we're not making anything. All right, from first year we made 50 grand.
Right.
We go from 50 to 500, 600.
Correct.
Like that was that kind of hockey stick growth that happened on it.
Because that's a numbers game. Like if the vast majority of our revenue came from advertising and sponsorship, then it was just a numbers game. How many downloads do we need to have? If we know that we make this rate on every 1,000 downloads, how many downloads do we need to have?
Then we're going to get paid.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
If I spend 100, cool.
It was that equation. So, and now I had turned on programmatic ads. I was still working with all the host reads, right? So it was just like, okay, how can we do this? So yeah, that was pretty rapid growth. And then the past 2 years, 2024 and now 2025 will end at about probably 850. 875, right about there. So. And
you were starting to tell me before, and then you said you'll tell me in the show. That it was not necessarily intentional, but there was a thought around why that was happening.
Yeah. I mean, who intentionally wants to make less, the next year?
Well, if you're going to make less, but net more, less work, contextually.
Right. So, well, a couple notables in this from a business model perspective. I got to a point. Oh man, she's been on with, I hired my first time employee in 2023. Wait, 2022. Mm-hmm. I hired my first full-time employee. She's my sister. And as a fun, business owner note, she was absolutely not qualified to do the job from the standpoint of, did she have the like specific knowledge or skill set, right?
If you put a resume together,
she would not.
It wouldn't have been like, oh, this is awesome.
No, but my intuition. She had the character that I knew that I needed, and the character was that she had an employee mindset, which meant when she was in, and she was loyal. And she needed the structure. She wanted structure. And I knew she was incredibly detail oriented. And I knew she'd be super loyal to me and what I was doing. And I knew that she, I just knew she's had and still has a throughness, meaning like, we're gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna figure it out. Like you could put anything brand new in front of her and she's gonna figure it out somehow. So I knew that those were the right characters. And so we had many, many conversations about it, obviously, but I was terrified because it was the first time I've hired anyone full time. And it's a big leap, financially speaking, because it's like, oh, now I'm kind of financially
responsible.
It's so much easier to hire like a contractor to do this, right? But I knew I needed...
And not a family member.
But I knew I needed the character, and I could teach her the skills.
Yeah.
And so that was a big part of why we had grown, because she could now handle 90% of the work that I had been doing, like the manual uploading of all of the episodes and like all of that stuff she could really do and learn. And she's been phenomenal.
Nice.
She's now our whole production manager, manages the whole team. Like, she's phenomenal. So,
and that's what I think is cool in our space, that it isn't so much like, look, we have the specialized knowledge and the understanding of, let's say, the ads and the tasks that have to happen, but then really when it comes down to like, what's the knowledge and skill set that has to come on the other side to make everything fulfilled, like everything can be taught relatively quickly.
Yeah.
It isn't as though most of the things we're doing isn't intuitive. It's
right.
And quite frankly, look, even if we are mastered at something, next month they're going to change the dashboard.
Right.
And we have to go figure out, like, all right, well, they moved this button, they moved this, and it's going to take that much time for us to do it as well.
Right. And as a leader, I'm constantly needing to ask myself, as I think all really great leaders do, is like, number one, what do I love to do the most in this business? And number two, what does the business actually need that I can only do? And that's not always the same thing, and that's okay, right?
Yeah.
So, but I knew, and this particular transition we're going through right now, from making the Women's Meditation Network a podcast network into we're a brand that now has a bunch of other things, right? The question, I have to be a different person in this. I have to be a different leader. The business, in order for the business to grow into that and evolve into that, it needs me to be somebody different. And happily, I really enjoy that part. I really enjoy the creation, the writing, the marketing, the sharing the message, the getting it out there, creating the programs, coaching and, being with my women one-on-one. And it's been really nice, actually. I mean, she's been training for this, but like, my sister runs the podcast network. Nice. I am talent there. Like, I show up to read and voice the meditations. I do nothing with the actual regular day-to-day production of that part of the business. So it leaves me free to do everything else that this vision really requires me and is asking me to do, and that I want to do, right?
So with that, you said you guys are putting out like 150 shows a month. Is that all you read, like creating? What is that? Like, what is the execution?
It's a pretty complicated system of that. But it means, so I have a writer. I have actually two writers who write the content, and there's X amount of scripts that they need to write per month. I have a producer, an audio producer who's phenomenal. Luca, he's been with me forever. And then I have a video producer, because one of our bigger pushes is now actually like really establishing our following and our audience on YouTube. So all of these more recent podcasts that we're talking about, they're all video first. So I have the team who's doing all of those things. So it has evolved over time, but no, I'm not reading 150 specific episodes, but I do audio voiceover a lot. We've been able to finagle it where maybe like on sometimes we might be, repurposing that episode because it's appropriate for that show too. Like, for example, if we created an original sleep meditation for women episode called, Relieve Nighttime Anxiety, we also have a podcast called meditation for anxiety, so we put it over there as well. So we're not creating original content for every single show. My business approach to that, to all of the growth of the actual shows, the podcasts, was I'm going to look at these as like a playlist. So instead of keeping everything on one podcast and, Jane Doe needs to come and search through thousands of episodes to find the kind of few that she wants that are appropriate for her, I'm going to create instead a show called Panic Attack Meditations. And we're going to put all episodes that are related to and can be helpful in that kind of a situation on that show.
So just categorizing. So when I looked at something yesterday, was like 2,000 something shows were loaded into it. And I was like, how does one even begin to go digesting that?
Correct.
So from your side of it now, it's like, all right, what are the categories that we've created? And then those basically all become our own little offshoots. So.
Exactly. So that's how we've built each of these shows. And so some of those 24 shows we actually create original content for on a regular monthly basis, but some of them we're just repurposing from those originals and we're putting them there because they're appropriate. So
are you changing anything in those? Is it really just?
There's no reason to.
Well, not in the meditation component, but do we need to, we're updating or changing whatever the intro stuff was? Like, is anything getting modified for that, or is it kind of just like we're just loaded over here?
Yeah, it's pretty pretty automatic. Like there's nothing to, that show has its own like introduction that is there in standard, and we're just putting the MP3 on the other side of that. Perfect. And it works really. So for example, like these, meditation for menopause and perimenopause, we already had some of those episodes in kind of the regular feed, and it was like, well, let's put them over here. That like, I don't want a woman to have to like dig through all this stuff in order to find it. Let's put it here. It's relevant. So we're marketing the topic.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So out of that, like, let's say 150, like how much original content do you think you have to invest in time and the teams writing, doing the scripts?
It shifts. So, it goes through seasons, let's say that. So there are seasons that I might record 75 original episodes not in one sitting, but like for 1 month. And then there are times where I'm recording like 25. So it's sort of like a big chessboard that we have with all of our shows and how they all pair together and work together. So it really we're changing things according to like what season of the year is it? Like what are women, like for example, a lot of times in Christmas, this wasn't for December, it's not the case this year, but there have been years in the past where December typically is a pretty low listening month for us because women are really busy doing all the things this month, right? Yeah. And so they're not really in their normal routines, but they're there. So in years past, we've just simply repurposed last year's content because they were completely relevant for the time of year. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to go ahead and just repurpose this original content. And so there's nothing new to record that month. You know what I mean? But
Do you
that
get
changes.
any kind of like not penalty, but like, so for instance, like if I'm posting, I'll just use like repurposing the same reel. Right. Not over and over again. Right. I'll see a little bit of like, it's not hitting the same on a social side. You can load, if you go to, let's say, the Menopause Women Network podcast, you might see the same one in there, maybe a different headline. Right.
No, it has not been my experience that our numbers change or are impacted by that. Now, it could be because of the type of content that we have. Meditation is really, like the actual episode is a guided meditation. It's pretty evergreen. Yeah. The only distinction might be like for a season or a point in time or something like that, right? That are not necessarily valid now, but also the listener experience as a meditation listener. When I find the 1 or 2 or 12 meditations I love, I'm listening to those over and over and over and over again. And so no, we haven't been dinged at it. No one has ever.
But are you actually republishing like the same one in the same show?
Sometimes we do, yeah.
And you're really just bringing it to the top of their feed.
Exactly.
Kind of. Yeah.
And I've actually heard that. Like I kind of had to get past a limiting belief that like, oh my God, people are gonna know and they're gonna hate that I
They think I'm lazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Like they think I'm not putting fresh stuff out there. But no, people actually were like, oh my God, I remember hearing this 2 years ago and I haven't been able to find it. Thank you so much. So like, it's so beautiful. Yeah.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So what is a successful day now. What is the day-to-day life? Which, look, you have kids and it's all over the place. But like, what does a work day look like? And
I'm going to start this by saying, like, I just recorded all these videos last week for like a day in the life of, right? And I haven't put it together yet, but it was the day that everything went the way I planned.
Nice.
Those don't happen all the time.
Yeah, no,
so I'm going to follow up with like a day in the life of when shit goes sideways, right? So with that knowledge, a typical day is I'm generally up by 4:30.
Wow.
I am not saying that that's necessary. There have been many seasons of my life where that has been absolutely impossible. This season, it seems to have kicked in. I love that alone time when no one needs me. I don't hear birds. There's no kids. Like, no one needs me. It's my time. It's super, super precious. Sometimes I'm legit just sitting and meditating with my coffee for an hour of that time because that's what I need in that moment. And sometimes, usually, I'm kind of doing the most important task for that day. A lot of writing happens at that time because it is typically a pretty creative time for me. And then 6:30 rolls around and now it's time to be mom. And now I'm getting kids ready for school, doing all the lunches.
She's referencing birds. There's an aviary on the property. Her husband breeds birds.
My husband loves
there's a lot
parrots.
of birds here.
We have a farm. We have a homestead. So we've got our own little farm here with the chickens, the parrots, the cats, peacocks. We have a family of peacocks too.
You have peacocks here.
Yeah, we do. They're cute, but they poop a lot everywhere. So it's like getting the kids out the door. I know.
Yeah.
And then my husband usually takes kids to school, and right about that time, when days go right, then I go work out. And so lately I've just been running a lot on our trail. I'll do my weightlifting workout, but like I have some level of movement that is so important to me because it gets my mind right for the day. And then I'll shift into actually working. And so that's when I'm usually, I organize my tasks according to the days typically. Like I sort of know what a Monday looks like. I know what a Tuesday, I know because I believe in energy management, which is different than time management. Energy management is like, I'm going to be in the most optimal energy for this task on this day. I can't always predict that, but typically on Mondays, I'm in like, get shit done mode, right? Administrative, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to check things off the list. I have Money Mondays every Monday. I know I'm in my financials doing that. That's the space of my brain that I'm like excited about. So I don't try to write and do creative stuff on Monday. That doesn't work. There are other days where I know I have chunks of time. I don't have any meetings scheduled. Those are the days that are like, okay, I'm going to do more creative stuff on those days. So, so I'll get to work doing whatever work tasks I have. At some point there's some sort of animal interruption for whatever reason. And then 2:00, I leave to go pick up kids typically. And then I'm mom for the rest of the day. And I used to, there was a season where like after bed could be another kind of work time for me, but that is not happening at 4 a.m. wake up time.
It's like 4:30.
I'm like done. Like last night I put the kids down and oh my God, by like 9:30 they finally went down and I took 3 steps into my bed and was done. I was like, I'm done.
Boy.
So,
So working on the increasing, you've got a bunch of the new product stuff, doing some coaching things, all of that. Those are the new things that are happening.
Correct.
If you just were to pretend that like, okay, I'm just throwing my hands up, I'm overdoing all of this stuff right now. How long in kind of perpetuity sort of residuals do you think money would kind of still continue to go? So people are thinking, all right, wow, you made a lot of money, great, but now you're still working all this time. You're still building all that. So there's obviously we're posting and doing these things. We're still maintaining it.
Right.
But there is some component of like, look, if I just decided to say, bleh.
Right.
It's not a never-ending runway, but it's a pretty...
So I don't know if this is a normal point of view, but I will look for those opportunities in my business to be more like long-running. I can set it and forget it. And I kind of have that with the podcast, right? Just because they're in existence. We're still going to produce the podcast. We're still going to put energy into them, into growing them. And if I didn't want to do it anymore, I could just leave them there and they can still, I think eventually it would
I'm sure
decrease,
over time,
right?
diminish.
But they would still earn revenue without me doing anything. And I am always on the lookout for some sort of like opportunity for something like that to happen. Where can I just like put this? And I do. Like I actually have episodes that I put out and sort of sell themselves on other platforms, other marketplaces where I could sell onesie twosies, and those I do nothing for those, and those are constantly making money. So I'm always on the lookout for ways that I could do that and not have to work for it anymore per se.
Do you think the YouTube side might be a bit of that?
Yes, and YouTube is definitely, for us, it's been a long-term play. My YouTube strategy, so we've had a YouTube channel called Meditation for Women for like 5 or 6 years. So we started it relatively early on in this process. I never took it seriously, meaning it wasn't my favorite thing to do. And I thought with a podcast operation brain, not with a YouTube production brain. So I would always hire people to do it. And so sometimes if those people were successful, great. And if not, it sucked, right? But I was never interested in overseeing it. Until I knew at some point, I was like, okay, I'm late to the game. I've got to really do some damage over there. I've got to get there and really expand. And so my sister has taken over that. So she's really the head person and she loves it. It's fun for her. She's great. So it sort of is great where she's going to do a better job than I ever could have done. And we get to take it really seriously. And it's been going well. We're launching all of our new shows as new channels over there.
You're just able to repurpose. I mean, your thousands and thousands of things you have. It's like I have a bunch of stuff I've saved on.
Right. Yes, and it's correct. But we didn't. So there's the tech capability for me to like connect my RSS feed, which is like it's real simple syndication. That's what technologically can connect the audio meditation to YouTube. And a lot of podcasters do that. We don't do that because I want to create something special just for YouTube, a video that's special just for YouTube. And so we might repurpose the audio, but we're actually creating a specific, beautiful video for YouTube with that audio. So, but yes, YouTube can be like another one of those places, right? Where like it'll grow and it'll grow and it has that potential to just continue to monetize, right? That said, my attitude about like longevity of constantly recurring revenue or revenue that we sort of set up once and do again is also I'm going to look for it in the business. That's great. And I'm constantly looking for it outside of the business. So in my just general life. So real estate, for example.
Investment side of things.
Exactly. Yes, so it's like, how else, like with the revenue that the company, I don't put all my eggs in the business basket.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly like, hey, how can the revenue that the company's making help me make an investment so it can go do its thing over here and it can do its thing over here and it can do its thing. So we have a lot of that where we've been able to like pull out, go invest over here, and so let those things kind of do their thing too. So, but I am always on the lookout within the business about how we could do that, but that's not the goal ultimately because I really love what I'm doing and I want to be super active in it. And I really, not that those two things are mutually exclusive, but I also feel like if I do a good job of pulling out profits to feed other investments and to maximize the long-term investments I can get within the company, I can stop when I want to stop and it can be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So for anyone else who's thinking about starting a podcast, getting into this space, like what would be something that's like I didn't know this before, what is my must do as I'm getting rolling on here?
I would, if you're interested in this platform, you've at least done some research and you at least know other podcasters.
So listen to other podcasts first.
Yes, but you have by now done some research to know that this is a platform that you want to participate in. So what my advice would be to go listen to what other people have to say, go gather knowledge. I'm going to specifically call it that. Go gather knowledge on how to do it. And then shove all that aside and figure out what's true for you. Because, I don't think that there's a perfect blueprint. And truly, the end game is really for you to enjoy what you're doing. And I really believe that all the data could tell you there's no way you're going to succeed and there's no way to do it. No one's ever done it like that before, or that way only carries this result. But if you're paying attention to your intuition, if you really have faith in yourself that you will enjoy it, figure it out, and be open-minded about what's possible, you will create waves. You'll create your own little, your own little galaxy of possibility. And it doesn't need to depend on anyone else or anyone else's opinion or anyone else's previous experience. So that's the advice I would give.
That's what I think we'll end up seeing, kind of permeate through all of the different conversations, is you kind of have to dig doing this for possibly a very long amount of time. It's I want to do this for long enough because I enjoy it. I'm not getting paid yet. I know it's going to work eventually, but I don't hate what I'm doing. So it's still easy to do. Yeah. Obviously there's tasks that just I'm tired of doing X, which we'll get out of. But the joy of, in my case, eating, and, but, doing the things that you've done for so long and working with the women and doing the stuff, it's part of what you would be doing anyways. Yeah,
I love it. And I feel like we've had a lot of death in our lives over the past couple of years. And it affirms to me over and over again, this is the whole point. This is the whole point for me to actually enjoy what I'm doing. There are hard days. There are times when it's really overwhelming how many people I carry on my shoulders. It's really overwhelming, the ups and downs of the market, right? But at the end of the day, it's a giant game to me, and it needs to be, because I really enjoy playing. Nice. And the day I don't is the day I need to get out of it.
Well, thank you so much for letting me come hang out here.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll thank Chris for not walking behind our little set, for not being on set today. But absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing everything.
Thanks for geeking out with me about all the business stuff. I love it.
That's always the fun thing. Anytime that we always hang out, it's geeking out on whatever is going to convert and work and do stuff. So if you're not checking them out, check out the Women's Meditation Network, obviously on all of the podcast networks. We appreciate you tuning in, and we will catch you next time.